Elena stood across the street, unmoving, as if her feet had grown roots into the cracked pavement. People passed her without noticing. Some brushed past her shoulder, others avoided eye contact. To them, she was invisible, just another poor girl lingering where she didn't belong. But to Elena, the building in front of her was everything. The glass office tower rose into the gray sky like a monument to dreams she was never allowed to touch. Clean lines. Shining windows. Automatic doors that opened only for those who belonged inside. She clutched a thin brown envelope to her chest. Inside it was her resume. Folded too many times. Smudged from rain. Typed at a public computer using borrowed coins. Each word on it represented hope, sacrifice, and nights without sleep. Her stomach twisted with hunger, but she ignored it. Hunger was familiar. Hope was not. This had been her last interview. A life of waiting. Elena had learned how to wait from a very young age. She waited in long lines for donated food. She waited outside hospitals when her mother was sick. She waited at closed doors, hoping someone would open one. Her father had died when she was 9. A construction accident. No compensation. No apology. Her mother cleaned houses until her lungs failed. After that, Elena cleaned houses too. But she always believed, quietly, stubbornly, that life could be more than survival. That's why she studied at night under broken lamps. That's why she learned computers from free library classes. That's why she ironed the same dress again and again for interviews. And that's why she stood there now. Waiting. The interview that never really began. The office lobby had smelled like coffee and money. The receptionist's eyes flicked from Elena's face to her shoes, cracked, worn, tired. Name? Elena Morales. Education? High school diploma. Online certifications. University? No, ma'am. But I have experience. The woman smiled politely. The kind of smile that ended conversations. We'll call you. They never intended to. Elena waited in the lobby for over an hour. She watched others walk in confidently, laughing, carrying briefcases. Then security approached. You need to leave, the guard said softly. You weren't selected. Just like that. No explanation. No rejection letter. No chance. The automatic doors closed behind her with a hiss that felt final. The street that saw everything. Now she stood across the street, staring at those same doors. She didn't cry. Crying wasted energy. Instead, she replayed the interview in her head, wondering what she had done wrong. Was it her accent? Her clothes? Her hands rough from work? She wondered how close she had been. So close she could see her reflection in the glass. A poor girl. Standing outside a world that didn't want her. The man above. On the top floor of the building, Daniel Wright, CEO of Wright and Hale Industries, stood mid-sentence during a board meeting. His assistant noticed first. Sir? Daniel didn't answer. His gaze was fixed on the floor-to-ceiling window. On the street below. On her. A girl standing alone, clutching an envelope like it mattered more than her own life. She's been there a while, Daniel said quietly. The room went silent. Daniel stepped closer to the glass. He didn't know why he was watching her. But something about the way she stood straight back despite exhaustion stirred something old and painful inside him. A memory he never escaped. Daniel hadn't always been powerful. Once, long ago, his mother had stood outside a factory gate just like that girl. Rejected. Too poor. Too tired. Too invisible. Daniel had been 10 years old, holding her hand as she whispered, maybe tomorrow. No one ever gave her tomorrow. The memory hit him like a fist. Back on the street. Elena's legs trembled. She knew she couldn't stay much longer. Security would return. but leaving meant admitting defeat. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Please." She didn't know who she was speaking to. The decision. "Zoom the security camera," Daniel said suddenly. The tech team obeyed. The image sharpened. Her face appeared on the screen. Young. Exhausted. Proud. Daniel exhaled slowly. Who interviewed her? Silence. "Find her application," he said. Now. A world apart. Elena finally turned away from the building. Each step felt heavier than the last. She made it halfway down the block before a voice stopped her. "Miss." She froze. A man in a suit jogged toward her. "Please come back inside." Her heart nearly stopped. I didn't do anything wrong," she said quickly. "That's not why," he replied. "The CEO wants to see you." Inside again. As the doors opened for her a second time, Elena's hands shook. The same lobby. The same smell. But everything felt different. Elevator doors closed. Numbers climbed. Her entire life balanced on that rising floor. Face to face. Daniel Wright stood when she entered. Not behind a desk. Not above her. He stood at her level. "Sit," he said gently. She did. He studied her resume. Then he looked at her face. "You weren't rejected for lack of ability," he said. "You were rejected for something we failed to see." Tears burned her eyes. "I just wanted to work," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "So did my mother. Not a job, a future." "I'm not offering you a job," Daniel said. Her heart sank. "I'm offering you a path. Education support. Paid training. Mentorship." Elena couldn't speak. No one had ever invested in her before. The moment that changed everything. "Why me?" she finally asked. Daniel smiled sadly. "Because someone once should have done this for someone I loved." Elena didn't sleep that night. The city outside her small apartment buzzed with its usual noise: sirens, distant laughter, engines passing by, but inside her chest, everything was louder. The CEO's words echoed again and again. "I'm not offering you a job. I'm offering you a path." She sat on the edge of her narrow bed, the brown envelope still clutched in her hands, though now it felt different. Lighter. Like it no longer carried rejection, but possibility. For the first time in her life, someone had looked past her clothes, past her poverty, and seen potential. That scared her more than rejection ever had. The first day inside. The next morning, Elena stood in front of the same building again. But this time, she wasn't staring from across the street. She stood inside. The automatic doors opened for her now, not with indifference, but recognition. A badge hung around her neck, temporary, bright white, stamped with her name. Elena Morales, trainee. Her hands trembled as she touched it. People passed her in tailored suits. Some smiled politely. Others glanced at her badge and frowned. She heard whispers. "Who is she? CEO project? Looks like charity." Each word cut, but she stayed silent. Daniel Wright had warned her. "Not everyone will be kind," he'd said. "But kindness doesn't require permission." Learning to breathe in a new world. The training program was intense. Elena studied until her eyes burned. She learned systems she had never touched before, languages she had only seen online. She failed tests. She cried in bathrooms. She almost quit 3 times. But every night, she remembered the street. The glass. The feeling of being invisible. And she continued. The woman who hated her. Her name was Margaret Cole. Senior manager. 15 years in the company. Sharp heels. Sharper tongue. Margaret noticed Elena immediately. Not because Elena was bad. Because Elena didn't belong. At least, not in Margaret's world. Do you even understand what this company does? Margaret asked once, in front of others. Yes, ma'am, Elena answered quietly. Margaret smirked. Charity cases rarely last. Laughter followed. Elena lowered her eyes, but she didn't walk away. The CEO watches again. From his office above, Daniel watched patterns. He didn't interfere. He observed. He saw Elena stay late. He saw her redo work without complaint. He saw others take credit for her ideas. And he saw Margaret's cruelty. But Daniel believed in something simple. True character reveals itself when power is not interrupted. The humiliation. It happened during a quarterly meeting. A presentation Elena had worked on for weeks, nights without sleep, weekends without rest, was shown on the screen. Margaret stood proudly at the front. This analysis, Margaret said, was prepared by my team. Elena's name wasn't mentioned. Her chest tightened. She watched executives nod in approval. Then Margaret turned. And for our trainee, she added casually, this is what professional work looks like. Learn. The room laughed softly. Elena's face burned. Daniel's jaw tightened. The breaking point. That night, Elena returned home and sat on the floor. She didn't cry at first. She just stared at the wall. Was this the price of opportunity? Being invisible again, just in a better building? She reached for her phone. Then stopped. Instead, she opened her notebook and kept working. The moment everything shifted. 2 weeks later, the company faced a crisis. A massive client threatened to pull out. Numbers didn't make sense. Projections were failing. Panic spread. Margaret's team couldn't fix it. Elena noticed something small. A pattern others missed. Her heart raced. She hesitated. Then raised her hand. I think I know why the model is failing, she said softly. Silence. Margaret scoffed. This isn't a classroom. Daniel looked up. Let her speak, he said. Elena stood. Her voice shook, but she spoke. 10 minutes later, the room was silent for a different reason. She was right. The boardroom truth. Daniel stood slowly. The model Elena just corrected, he said calmly, was hers. Shock rippled through the room. Margaret's face drained of color. She prepared it, Daniel continued. Alone. After hours. Without credit. He turned to Elena. Is that true? She nodded, tears threatening. Daniel faced the board. This, he said, is why talent is wasted. Because we judge before we listen. Margaret was removed from leadership that day. The aftermath. Whispers turned into respect. Eyes that once dismissed Elena now watched her carefully. She was no longer invisible. But she didn't become cruel. She remembered the street. Years later. The glass office reflected a different image now. Elena stood inside, wearing a simple professional suit. Her name was etched on the door. Director of Community Development. She had created a program. One that offered training to those who stood outside, just like she once did. Every morning, she looked through the glass. Watching. Waiting. The final scene. One rainy evening, Elena noticed a young girl standing across the street. Thin jacket. Nervous eyes. Envelope held tightly. Elena's breath caught. She picked up her coat. And walked toward the doors. The end. Some people change their lives. Others change systems. Elena did both.